What is going on, everybody? New York Sports Hub here, back at it with another MLB video. This video is going to be a MLB positional rankings video for the American League East, the division the Yankees play in. I'm going to be going by each position, including the DH, and going by what each team I think has the worst DH and which team I think has the best DH, and go position by position, starting off with pitcher, ending out with DH. So I'm going to be going position by position, seeing I think has the worst the worst of that position, and I'm also I think who has the best division and third, second, fourth, and all of that. So let's start off with the starting pitchers. So coming in fifth place for the starting pitcher in the positional rankings, I have the Orioles. The Orioles easily have the worst pitching staff in this division. They might have the worst pitching staff in baseball. Besides John Means, they really don't have a great staff. They signed, I think, Cole Stewart. I'm not sure if Cole Stewart will make the rotation or not. I know he was on the Twins, but he didn't really pitch well down there. Besides John Means, they have Alex Cobb coming off a big injury. The pitching on the Orioles is really not that good. In my opinion, they're the easy choice for fifth place in the American League for starting pitching. And it's not just one starting pitcher, by the way. It's the whole rotation. Coming in fourth place, the Boston Red Sox. And the Red Sox are a team I would put a lot higher. Now, they do have Nathan Eovaldi coming back, but Martin Perez they did sign. But they lost Chris Sale, their ace for the entire season. Chris Sale is one of the nastiest pitchers in Major League Baseball, and they're not going to have Chris Sale for the entire season. Eduardo Rodriguez is kind of their ace. Once again, Rodriguez is definitely a solid pitcher, but he's definitely not an ace. He did win 19 games last year, but the Red Sox have really, really weak pitching. That's one of the main reasons why the Red Sox didn't really have a good season last year. So the Red Sox have the fourth worst pitching, and I didn't really think it got any better this offseason. In fact, I thought it got worse. Coming in third place, I got the Toronto Blue Jays, and the Blue Jays have actually, the pitching staff has gotten a lot better. They signed Hyun-Jin Ryu, a really nice signing by the Blue Jays. Hyun-Jin Ryu had a fantastic season, but once again, he is very injury-prone. Hyun-Jin Ryu, throughout his career, has struggled with injuries. They have Matt Shoemaker coming back, who had a really good start to the year for the Blue Jays last season, but once again, he had a big injury, and he barely even pitched last year, but when he did pitch, he was pretty good for the Blue Jays. They signed Tanner Roark, who, once again, who's a veteran, but he's pretty solid. They signed Chase Anderson. They signed Shin Yamaguchi, who might be a reliever, but he also could start. The Blue Jays have a very, very young rotation, but once again, I don't think it's very good just yet, but I still think it can be pretty solid, maybe this year, but I think it comes in third place. Coming in at number 2, and this is, once again, a rotation that really struggled last year, but I do think it will get a lot better, and that's the Yankees. The Yankees obviously made the biggest move out of any team in the offseason, signing Garrett Cole, the best free agent on the market. Garrett Cole is arguably the best pitcher in baseball. In my opinion, he comes in second behind DeGrom. Garrett Cole, in my opinion, is the best pitcher in the American League. The Yankees went out and signed him for $300, whatever it was, $1 million, and that makes the pitching staff just, a whole lot better. The Yankees have been looking for an ace. The Yankees just need, a bona fide ace. They haven't really had an ace like that, since maybe like Andy Pettitte. So the Yankees really needed an ace. They got one with Garrett Cole. Could be the best pitcher in the American League. They went out and signed him to a 9-year deal. The pitching staff really struggled last year, but I think if it could stay healthy, the pitching staff can be very solid in 2020 with Paxton and Tanaka and Montgomery. So they come in second, but the best pitching staff in the division, in my opinion, is the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, I think the Yankees could have been one, but the Rays have, a really, really good 5-man rotation. They have Charlie Morton, who almost won the Cy Young last year. I think he might have finished in third place in the Cy Young voting. Charlie Morton had a fantastic season. He's a really good veteran pitcher. He was always really good with the Astros. I think Charlie Morton's one of the best pitchers in the American League. You got Blake Snell, who had a kind of a disappointing season last year, but when he had the surgery, mid-season, he came back and pitched a lot better. They had Tyler Glasnow. If he never had the big injury, he could have been in the races for Cy Young because he had a fantastic start to the year. Tyler Glasnow was probably the best pitcher in baseball before he got hurt. He had a fantastic season, and it sucks that he's injured because he was a really good young pitcher, and they actually got a rip-off of Chris Archer, who's one of the more overrated pitchers in the league. They traded Chris Archer to the Pirates for Tyler Glasnow and Austin Meadows, and both of those players have been fantastic for the Rays. And with the signing of Glasnow, they also have Yanni Chirinos and Brian Yarbrough, who they kind of use in the opener. And in my opinion, the Rays have the best pitching in baseball, and I think the Rays obviously have the best pitching staff in the American League East. So we move over to the bullpen. This is the overall bullpen. It's not just the closer or one specific reliever. It's the whole bullpen. And coming in fifth place for bullpen, it's going to be the Baltimore Orioles. They're just a really bad team overall. They really don't have any good relievers in that bullpen. Michael Givens is solid, I guess, but he did kind of struggle last year. He blew a lot of saves. The Orioles have one of the worst bullpens in baseball last year. I think it's a pretty easy choice to put them at fifth. Coming in at fourth place, I got the Blue Jays bullpen. Now, the bullpen, they signed Ken Giles and traded him for Roberto Osuna because of the whole that whole allegations and the whole domestic violence. They got Ken Giles from the Astros. Ken Giles really struggled in 2018 for the Astros, and he came over to the Blue Jays and had a fantastic year. And if the Blue Jays don't end up trading Ken Giles, I think he could be one of the best closers in this league. I think he's probably a top 5 closer in the league. He had a really good season last year. He bounced back after a rough 2018. But besides him, the Blue Jays don't really have a great bullpen. It's still a very young bullpen, and they do have some young guys who could come in and step up, and pitch well for that bullpen. But the Blue Jays do, I think, have the 4th best bullpen in the division because it's still very young. And besides Ken Giles, they don't really have any good relievers besides him. Coming in 3rd place, I got the Red Sox bullpen, and the Red Sox bullpen was one of the worst in the league to start off the year. But then after kind of the All-Star break, the Red Sox bullpen got a lot better. Brandon Workman had a really good season, for the Red Sox. They have a pretty decent middle relief. Now the Red Sox, I don't think have a terrible bullpen. It kind of just started off bad, and then it got better at the end of the year. I think the starting pitching is the Red Sox's biggest weakness, and not the bullpen. I think the bullpen's actually kind of solid. Brandon Workman had a good season. They have Matt Barnes who had a pretty solid year. The Red Sox, I don't think have a bad bullpen. I don't think they have a good bullpen. I just don't really think they have a bad bullpen. I have the Red Sox finishing at 3rd place. Coming in at the 2nd best bullpen is the Rays bullpen, and the Rays have a really good bullpen, but the Yankees have the best bullpen in baseball, so I had to put the Rays at 2. The Rays might have the 2nd best bullpen in the league besides the Yankees. They have a really good bullpen. They have Oliver Drake, they have Jose Alvarado, Diego Castillo, they have Chaz Rowe. They did lose Emilio Pagan, but besides that, their bullpen is really good. They can also they use the opener a lot, so they use the bullpen obviously a lot. And if every 2 out of the 5 games where it's not Morton, Snell, or Glasnow, their main starters, they're using their bullpen, and that's why the Rays win a lot of games because they pitch so well. And the bullpen's one of the main reasons why they win games. And I think a bullpen's one of the more I think a bullpen's a really important piece to your team if you want to win games. I think you need a good bullpen to win games. And the Rays have a really good bullpen, and that's why they've been so successful the past couple years. And that's why I do have the Rays at 2, because coming in at number 1, the best bullpen in baseball, by far, it's the Yankees. Their bullpen is absolutely stacked with Chapman, Britton, Ottavino, Canely. They have a fantastic bullpen, easily the best bullpen in baseball, and it's obviously the best bullpen in the American League East. I don't really need to explain myself here. They easily have the best bullpen in the division. Moving over to the catcher position, and with the worst catcher, now we go by specific player, not by position, not go by the overall. We go by the specific player. And with the worst catcher in the division, it's going to be Chance Sisco of the Orioles. You're going to see the Orioles pretty much last in most categories. And Chance Sisco's been a catcher. It could be Pedro Severino, but he'd probably finish 4th or 5th, even if it was Pedro Severino starting. Chance Sisco has never really proved himself to be a good catcher, and he finishes at 5th place. Chance Sisco's just not a really good catcher. Coming in at 4th place, we have Mike Zunino, and Mike Zunino probably would be in 5th if it wasn't for his good defense. Mike Zunino is a really good defensive catcher. He's good at, not allowing the ball to go back to the backstop, unlike Gary Sanchez. Mike Zunino is a really good defensive catcher, but when it comes to hitting, Mike Zunino is absolutely atrocious. He is not a good hitter at all. The only reason why he's probably not last is because he's actually a decent defensive catcher, but once again, he's a bad offensive hitter, so he comes in at 4th. Coming in at 3rd place, I got Danny Jansen. Now, Danny Jansen had a bad year last year, and he was a player on the Blue Jays that I thought would have a good season. He was one of their top prospects, one of their top catching prospects. I thought he would have a pretty good season for the Blue Jays, and he had a really disappointing year. He didn't really play well. Now, Reese McGuire could be the starting catcher, but Danny Jansen played more games for the Blue Jays last year, so I think he'll start at catcher for the Blue Jays on opening day. And I think he'll have a better season than he did last year. I think he's got a lot of talent, so I have him finishing at 3rd. Coming in at 2nd place, I got Christian Vasquez. Now, Vasquez, before this year, wasn't really a good hitting catcher, but he came on this year and had a really good season with the bat. I think he hit like 290 this year, or 280. He had a really good season as a hitter, and he comes in at 2nd place. Christian Vasquez had a really good season for the Red Sox last year, and so he comes in at 2nd. But the number 1 catcher in this division is obviously Gary Sanchez. Now, if Gary Sanchez could be better defensively, he's one of the worst defensive catchers in the league. I think Gary Sanchez has the talent to be the best catcher in baseball. It just depends if he can, fix his defense, because he is atrocious as a defensive catcher. But he's one of the best hitting catchers in baseball. I think if he can improve his defense, I think Gary Sanchez is one of the more talented catchers in baseball. And I think if he can just improve his defense, he can be the best catcher in baseball. It just depends on how consistent he is this year and how his defense improves. But I do think he is the best catcher in this division. But it's close. But I think Sanchez is the best catcher in this division. Moving over to first base, and coming in at 5th place, I got Chris Davis. I don't really need to explain myself here. He's easily the worst first baseman, maybe even in baseball. Chris Davis has not, Chris Davis has absolutely been atrocious. I don't really need to say anything else. He had an 0-50 slump last year, the worst slump in Major League history. He's easily the worst first baseman in the division. He's maybe even the worst first baseman in baseball. Coming in at 4th place, I got Travis Shaw. Now, Travis Shaw had a pretty good 2018 and a pretty good 2017 season, but last year for the Brewers, he was really disappointed. That's why the Brewers released him, and he's actually a pretty solid first baseman. It just depends if he can, go back to the way he played back in 2018. But I have him finishing in 4th mainly because he had such a bad season last year. Coming in at 3rd place, I got Mitch Moreland. Moreland's a player who used to be pretty good. He was pretty good first baseman with the Rangers, but once again, he's kind of old. He's kind of getting up there in age, so Mitch Moreland's not the same player he used to be. He didn't really hit for average last year. He kind of had a bad year last year. I have him finishing at 3rd. Coming in at 2nd place, I got Ji-Man Choi. Now, Ji-Man Choi isn't really the greatest first baseman in the world, but Ji-Man Choi is pretty solid. He plays a pretty good defense at first base. Ji-Man Choi comes in at 2nd, but mainly because, the first base is kind of weak in this division, so I think Ji-Man Choi finishes at 2nd. He had a pretty good season for the Rays last year. Hit for a decent average. And the best first baseman in baseball is Luke Voit, my man Luke Voit. He is the best first baseman in this division, in my opinion. Now, Luke Voit had a bad slump to end the year. He had a bad, he ended the season really, really poorly. But Luke Voigt's a really good first baseman. Although he's not great defensively at first base, he's a really, really good hitter. And, he's a beast. He can crush the ball. He's easily the best first baseman in the division, in my opinion. Well, there's not that many good first basemen in this division. So Luke Voit, I think, easily gets the number 1 spot. So there's not really much first baseman to choose from that are really good in this division. So Luke Voit is the number 1 first baseman in the division. Moving over to 2nd base, and coming in at 5th place, I have Hanser Alberto. Now, Hanser Alberto actually had a pretty solid season last year. I think he hit for over 300. He's actually a guy who got on base a lot last year, but I can't really trust Hanser Alberto to be a good player in the future because he only had 1 good season. And before this year, he wasn't really a good player. So I have Hanser Alberto finishing in 5th, but he could have a good season next year. But I just don't really think he will because he's only had 1 good season. You can't judge you can't judge a player after 1 good season. So I have him Alberto finishing in 5th. Coming in at 4th place, I have Kevin Biggio. Now, Biggio didn't really hit well for average last year, but he had a really good OPS. And Kevin Biggio is one of the bright young stars on the Blue Jays, and I think he can have a really good career in the major leagues, but he kind of had a disappointing rookie season, but I think he can come back in his 2nd year and be a really good player. He's one of the more talented players, the talented young players in the league. So I have Kevin Biggio finishing in 4th. He's still a rookie, so I can't put him higher than this. And coming in at 3rd place, I got Michael Chavis. Michael Chavis started off his rookie career really good, and then kind of slowed down at the end. But Michael Chavis had a pretty good rookie season, and a lot of Red Sox fans like to call him the Ice Horse. And Michael Chavis is a pretty solid first baseman, although he's more of a first baseman than a second baseman. But a first base is more of his main position in my opinion. But they signed Mitch Moreland, so he'll be playing first base. And Michael Chavis will be playing second base this year. But he's pretty good defensively, and he has a pretty good bat, so I have him finishing at 3rd. And coming in at 2nd place, I have Brandon Lau. Brandon Lau had a really good season. He actually made the All-Star team for the Rays. He had a really good season. He's kind of a small guy, but he had a really good season for the Rays last year. So I have him finishing at 2nd. He's one of the more underrated players in the league, in my opinion. And he's a very underrated second baseman. I have him finishing at 2nd. And coming in at number 1, it's a very easy choice. It's DJ LeMahieu. He's the best second baseman in baseball. Don't tell me Jose Altuve. DJ LeMahieu is the best second baseman in baseball. He comes in at 1st. It's a very easy choice. He's easily the best second baseman in this division. Now we move over to shortstop, and coming in at 5th place, I have Jose Iglesias. And Iglesias actually had a pretty solid season with the Reds last year. I think he hit for a pretty high average, but still, Jose Iglesias still isn't a very good player. Once again, he's a veteran, so he's not the same player he used to be. He's pretty good defensively, but he's probably the worst shortstop in this division. There's actually 4 shortstops in this division that are really, really good. So I have Jose Iglesias at 5th. Coming in at 4th place, I have Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette, probably in maybe a year or two, he'll probably be at number 2, maybe even at number 1. Bo Bichette had an amazing rookie year, but he's still only played 1 season in the major leagues. I think he only played 60 games, so I can't put him higher than 4 because he's only a rookie, and we've only seen 1 season out of him. But Bo Bichette will probably move up a lot higher on this list next year. So I have him finishing at 4. He's one of the more talented players in the league. And coming in at 3rd place, I have Willy Adames. Willy Adames kind of had a disappointing rookie year, but Willy Adames had a really, really good season last year. He's a really good defensive player. I have him finishing at 3rd place. I think he can have a really solid career, but I think he'll probably maybe move down to 4th when Bo Bichette plays a full season. So I have Willy Adames at 3rd. He had a really good season last year. Coming in at 2nd place, it's Gleyber Torres, and Gleyber Torres is my pick to win the MVP this year, but there's just one player above him that is a little bit better, but Gleyber Torres had a fantastic year last year. I think he had 38 home runs. He had a fantastic season, But there's just one shortstop in this division that's just a little bit better, and that is Xander Bogaerts. And he's the best shortstop in this division. He could be the best shortstop in baseball besides Francisco Lindor. I don't know how he, barely made the All-Star team last year. And if that one guy didn't get injured in the All-Star roster, he wouldn't have made the All-Star team, which was ridiculous. Because Xander Bogaerts had a really, really good season last year. He had over 100 RBIs and had the best season of his career. He's won 2 World Series. He's easily the best shortstop in this division, but I do think Gleyber Torres can be the best shortstop in baseball, maybe in a couple years. But I think Bogaerts comes in at 1 because he's done it for a lot longer, and he had a really, really good season last year. So we move over to the second to last position, or the third to last position on the in the video. We move over to third base, and coming in at 5, I have Rio Ruiz. He's easily the worst third baseman in this division. Rio Ruiz, once again, didn't really do much for them last year. He's listed to be their starting third baseman for them for them this year on opening day. So I put him at 5th, mainly because Rio Ruiz has never really had good numbers in the major leagues. So he's the easy choice at number 5. Coming in at number 4, I have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Now, a lot of people are going to think this is low, but once again, he had a really disappointing season, and his OPS last year was below 800. So he had a very disappointing rookie season, but I do think he can come on next year and have a much better season. He's still 20 years old, so we got to give him another year, to get used to the major leagues a little bit more, but he's one of the more talented players in the league. He was the number 1 prospect until he came up to the major leagues. I do think Vladimir Guerrero Jr. can be a beast in the major leagues, but he had kind of a disappointing season last year, so I have him finishing at 4th, and plus he's only a rookie. And coming in at third place, I have Yandy Diaz. Yandy Diaz is kind of an underrated third baseman. He doesn't really play third base. That's not his main position. He plays a little bit of DH. He can play second. He can play short. He kind of plays all around. But he's actually a pretty solid player. He's not anything crazy good, but he's still a pretty solid third baseman. Hit 2 home runs in the wild card game. And I think Yandy Diaz is pretty underrated. He had a pretty good season for the Rays last year. I have him finishing at 3rd. Coming in at 2nd place, I have Gio Urshela. What a year Gio Urshela had. He could finish at 1, but I think the third baseman above him is a little bit better. Gio Urshela came onto the scene and had a great year last year. Gio Urshela, before he came to the Yankees, he was never supposed to be a good player, but he came to the Yankees and had a fantastic season. He's one of the best defensive third basemen in baseball. He had a fantastic year for the Yankees, and I do think he finishes at 2nd. But I just think there's one third baseman ahead of him that's a little bit better, and that third baseman is Rafael Devers. In my opinion, he is the best third baseman in this division. He had a fantastic year last year, had 100 RBIs plus. I think he had like 120 RBIs, had a fantastic year. Although he's not really good at third base, he's kind of sloppy at third base. He's probably the best third baseman in this division just because he absolutely raked last year for the Red Sox. So I have Rafael Devers as the best third baseman in this division. And now we move on to the DH. And the best DH, the worst DH in this division is Rowdy Tellez. And now the Blue Jays don't really have a typical DH. It could be Teoscar Hernandez, but I think Rowdy Tellez will DH for them this year. And Rowdy Tellez has never proved anything in the major leagues. He's only played like 1 or 2 seasons in the big leagues, and he's never really been anything that good. So I have Rowdy Tellez finishing at 4th place. Coming in at 3rd place, the Orioles actually aren't last in one category. I have the Orioles DH Renato Nunez finishing at 3rd. Renato Nunez actually slugged last year. He had a lot of home runs last year, and I do have him finishing at 3rd. I don't think he's a great third baseman or a great DH. He's not really necessarily a DH. He can also play a little bit of first base. But Renato Nunez finishing at 3rd, had a pretty good season last year. But once again, he didn't really hit high for average and struck out a lot, so I have him finishing at 3rd. Coming in at 2nd place, I have Giancarlo Stanton or Miguel Andujar, but the number 1 DH in this league is better than these two. So I kind of put like Stanton and Andujar because they both could DH this year. So Stanton and Miguel Andujar could both DH for the Yankees this year. I think they'll kind of swap. Every day they'll kind of swap. Stanton will play left, then Andujar will DH, then Andujar will play 3rd. Stanton will DH. I think they'll kind of flip-flop for that position in the lineup. But they're both really, really good hitters. But I think just the DH ahead of them, I think he's the best DH in baseball. So I have them finishing at number 2. And once Stanton's a beast, and Andujar's coming off a big injury, but Miguel Andujar is a beast. But there's definitely the player that's ahead of them is the best DH in baseball, and that is JD Martinez. He's easily the best DH in this division. He's the best DH in baseball, so obviously he finishes at number 1. Every year he seems to get better and better. Had a great year for the Red Sox last year. And he was another guy in the Red Sox that had over 100 RBIs. He's just a beast, and he's easily the best DH in the division. And the last positions, I'm going to go with the outfielders. So it's not just one. It's not going to be left field, center field, right field. It's just going to be every single outfielder on the team. And with the worst outfield, it's the Orioles. I don't really need to say anything else. They lost, and Trey Mancini was probably their best player, and he played right field for them. But with the loss of Trey Mancini, the outfield got a lot worse, and their outfield's easily the worst in the division. Coming in at 4th place, it's the Blue Jays outfield. Their outfield is not very good either. Randall Grichuk's a pretty good power hitter, but besides that, they don't really have a good outfield either. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. is a pretty nice young player, had a really good season last year, but did get hurt. Once again, he's a pretty good player, but besides that, the Blue Jays outfield isn't really that good. And with the 3rd best outfield in the division is the Red Sox, and the Red Sox would be number 1. But JD Martinez is more of a DH. He's not really an outfielder. He's not really good in right field, so he's more of a DH because he's bad in the outfield. So I count him as a DH. But the Red Sox lost their best outfielder in baseball, possibly, besides Mike Trout, in Mookie Betts. So their outfield has gotten a lot worse. They probably would be number 1 if they never would have, traded Mookie Betts. But they finished at 3rd. They still have Andrew Benintendi. He's a pretty good player. They got Alex Verdugo in the trade for Mookie Betts. He's a pretty solid player, but besides that, the outfield's kind of average. But I do think it finishes in 3rd. Coming in at 2nd place, I got the Rays outfield. They got Austin Meadows, Kevin Kiermaier, and Hunter Renfroe. And Kevin Kiermaier is one of the best defensive center fielders in the league, although I think he's overrated because he's not really that great of a hitter, but he's one of the best, defensive center fielder in the league. He can rob home runs. Hunter Renfroe, they signed him, to replace Tommy Pham. And Hunter Renfroe's a pretty good hitter. He's got a lot of power. And Austin Meadows had a really good season last year, but he did kind of slow down at the half and then, ended out the season strong. Had a great first half, Austin Meadows did. And the Rays outfield is pretty solid. I have it finishing at 2nd. And with the best outfield in the division, it's the Yankees outfield with Aaron Judge, Aaron Hicks, and Brett Gardner. It's easily the best outfield in the division. It's one of the best outfields in the league. Aaron Judge is probably a top 10 player in the league if he's healthy. Aaron Hicks is one of the best defensive center fielders in the league. He's a pretty solid hitter. He's probably a top 5 center fielder in the league. And Brett Gardner's a nice veteran player. They also have Mike Tauchman. So the Yankees have easily the best outfield in baseball. They also have Stanton, who could play outfield as well. If he's not DHing, he'll probably play left. So the Yankees have easily the best outfield in this division. I have them finishing at number 1. They have easily the best outfield in baseball. So that's going to do it for the American League East positional rankings. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I might do one for the for the NFC East for the Giants. That might come out. That's a video that I might do pretty soon. So make sure to stay tuned for that. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace.